What's up, peeps? So you ever wonder if I had to have one tool in my toolbox that will allow me to win at life and business and relationships, what would that be? What would that actual tool or resource be for you? And it is in your mindset. And so I've got here my homeboy, my brother from another mother, Joe Stauffacher, way in another country called Wisconsin, another country called Wisconsin. So he's been in town. He was in Austin at an event over the weekend, and so of course he's an hour away. We're gonna come in here and rock it out and do some things together too. So my brother Joe, like I said, we both were in the same mindset coaching group for about 3 years or so, and we're just gonna kind of talk a little bit about how this mindset stuff, where it started for us and how we implement it and how you can implement it in your particular life itself. But why does it matter most? What is it about that too? So, Joe, what's up, dog?
What's up?
Not much, man. So
good to be here.
It was good to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
So let's just kind of kick it off a little bit. Tell folks a little bit about your background, what you've been into and whatnot, and how you kind of came to this whole mindset world or whatnot.
All right. I got
in the PG version.
The PG version. I got introduced to mindset through NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, and just had my mind blown at the capabilities of what our mind is capable of doing. I sat there listening to the instructions and hearing what my brain was capable of, and I was like, why didn't I learn this in second grade? Like, are you kidding me?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why aren't they've known this stuff since the 50s and the 60s and they aren't teaching it in elementary school? Like, you got to be kidding me. So that was kind of the hard part. But after you have this realization of what your brain is capable of, how do you apply it? And that's when I ran into BG, who, how we ended up meeting, BG and Carrie, because he was just always posting this stuff on Facebook, and philosophically I'd get real interactive with it and he'd comment back, and it was life-changing for me in the sense that I had all of these tools that I knew I was capable of helping other people use their mind and be able to do, but I didn't have the awareness for how all of that impacted me or how it worked with me.
Yeah.
Right. Like, it's like I have this big idea of how it works, but now it's how do you apply it to what you know and who you are. Right. Especially the emotional side of it. And I always felt like I made progress in the emotional side of it, but that's 15 years later, that story changes.
Yeah.
And then I thought it was more digestion.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Brian's always talking about mindset matters most. And I was just on this digestive journey. Like, I needed to strengthen my digestion. I needed to figure it out. Like, how do you make healthy cells? Because healthy cells, if you keep making healthy cells, then you don't have an environment for bad cells to be made.
Mm-hmm.
So I always kind of wasn't really sure. Like, if you don't, your hormones and everything takes place in the gut for your mindset and stuff to happen. So I was pretty pro that. And then, getting into the emotional side of it, understanding that aspect, that seemed to be the superpower. Right. Like, when you know what's going on with your emotions and dialing that in, and I was like, oh, that's where it's at. It's the emotions. I'm not sure it is the mindset. And even though I kind of was parroting, mindset matters most, I still questioned it. I wasn't sure.
Right.
And then I got into the neuro work and the neuro stuff, and my real shift came once I found the right neuro drills to be doing for myself and training my nervous system, getting away from overwhelm, getting away from overthinking, catching myself in those moments and having tools to do something about it that weren't necessarily mindset tools.
Right.
But then, you and I were talking, because I'm all about the alignment of mindset, digestion, and neuro, and you kind of got to have all three to get where you want to go, is the way that I look at it.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kept thinking about that. And I was like, if you don't ever have the mindset, then you never make the decision to take that next step. You can't have the mindset to get through the diet. You can't have the mindset to do the neuro drills.
Right.
You don't even have the mindset to figure out the emotional stuff. And for me, the emotional stuff, I thought I knew what emotions was, like, consciously, logically. But it was as I started doing the neuro drills, I started feeling all of these emotions that made no sense to me. I'm like, who am I? Why am I crying right now? I have no idea, right? And then it was just stuff shifting and changing in my body as I was doing the neuro drills. And if you don't have the mindset when you're going through some of that stuff to stay on track, you can take you can turn right, left, and go in a whole lot of places you don't want to go.
But thank you for sharing that. What comes up for me as you're talking is like, we're a whole person, and it's so hard. We want to segment one thing. Like, just think about what weight loss. It's all about the diet, and then it's all about the exercise. It's all about, getting enough sleep, or it's all about macros and carbs and whatever it may be. You're a whole person, and each individual has these nuances that may be a little different that we have to pay attention to. But at the same time, being a whole person, you hear, your gut health, but we know that there is a gut-brain connection. There's a lot of the same anatomy and physiology of these cells are very similar in the brain and in the gut. So you're looking at gut stuff, but it's like, well, it connects to the brain. But you hear emotions, and you talk with people say, well, I trusted my gut. I had a gut instinct, and that's we're talking about what I feel, and what I feel in the moment, what I feel is right for me, and what's in alignment. But at the same time, that's still talking to your subconscious mind. With my gut, what's been programmed, what are the underlying stories that comes from this, and so all these things. And then, of course, we're made of nerves, and all these things interconnected, because this is the communication highway is the neurology of it. So, so many times we want to segment one thing, and you hear it a lot of times in any kind of profession. This is the thing, the person who says, oh, websites are dead, are going to lead you to a funnel. Email is dead, because they have another thing, once again, because they have a social media thing. They're going to lead you to what they're trying to sell. So they're throwing rocks at the enemies that are against this, but all of it matters. It's just that, once again, we're talking about that in the mindset side of it. It's like, you got to decide. You have to make a decision, and that starts with the mind. Now, you're going to have your emotions attached to it. You're going to say, what is my gut feelings? What history do I have along with this? What has history shown me? And I think that's a part of it for me was, mindset matters most. And like my life scripture is Romans 12:2. It's up here in the studio, and it's be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Every transformation has to be of a change of mind. And that's what we're talking about, the whole thing. And even for you going on your journey, changing your mind from this is the main thing, well, maybe this is the main thing, or this is the main thing. They're all interwoven, but we know that the mindset is still kind of at the crown of the whole thing.
Yeah, the mindset is what moves the person forward for the transformation. So even like sales calls, right? Sales calls it's the transformation that's take place. It's not even buying and selling. It's the conversation that you're having with someone when they're connected to their pain, they're connected to what it's costing them by not being where they want to be, and then making the decision that you're the person who can get them the results that they want. And that's all mindset. Right. Like each one of those pieces to be able to go through that process is the mindset of it. So, like whether it's diet and how that looks and how you're feeling, do you have the mindset to wake up every day and stay consistent with the path that you're choosing? Because maybe you're going to try the elimination diet for a little bit, because you got to figure out like, what's gluten doing to me? What's dairy doing to me? What's processed foods doing to me? I mean, I got started with juicing, right? And it was, all these people who juice talk about the amazing benefits of juice. Well, I don't know if I don't do it. So I don't even have the mindset of what juicing is like if I have the mindset that that's not for me. Right.
And I'm not that person. It's kind of like, oh, I'm not a morning person. I love when I love when people say, I'm not a morning person. Especially if you're a parent, you've been a morning, afternoon, middle of the night person, you become whatever's necessary. When people say I'm not a morning person, I say, well, guess what? What if I paid you $3,000 every time you showed up at 5 a.m. to come work out? Cock-a-doodle-doo. I've been transformed by the renewing of my mind to become a morning person, because the you know what I'm saying? The payoff, it makes you become what's necessary. Oh, I just don't do this. I've never done the Tough Mudder. I never do whatever it is you say you don't do. Or you think, once again, you're attaching identity to something, and that's you're stuck in that, once again, in that mindset of it. But it's got to be a change.
Morning's a great example. I was not a morning person.
Yeah.
I am not a morning person. I was not a morning person. I was not a morning person because now I wake up in the morning. I'll get up anywhere from 4 a.m. to 9 a.m. And 9 a.m. is like I was up late, right?
Yes.
So I still get my sleep,
Mm-hmm.
but it was really interesting when I made the conscious choice to start telling myself that I am a morning person.
That's it.
It was the mindset shift,
and that's one of the things we learn and teach in mindset training and things is that it's the story you tell. The story you tell is the truth you know. It's the life you live. It's so whatever it may be, faith is such a weird thing. I can have faith is always a belief. I can have faith or belief that when I get in my vehicle and we drive away, that I can get in a car accident. Man, I might be able to get in a car accident. It's kind of dangerous out here. They're doing road construction. I can get in a car accident. And if I'm focusing on that, I'm telling my mind that I want to get in a car accident. That's the crazy thing about it. We so much look at what we want to avoid versus what we want, and we're telling ourselves to go in that same way. But if I believe that by faith that we're going to be fine, we're going to be safe, we're going to be, everything's going to be fine, that's typically more the outcome. Now, accidents happen and things happen. We're not talking about that. But if you go to do a launch in business, you go to do a sales call, but you believe that no one wants to buy because you have a story about your self-worth, you have a story about your subconscious, you have all these things going on, then you're fighting yourself. So why not choose in your favor? If I'm going to make a choice of what I believe about myself or my opportunities, I'm going to choose what's going to benefit me versus what's going to be the negative side of things. And that's, like I say, we're talking about a choice or even a decision is even stronger. Decision, when you decide, means you cut off. I cut off other options because this is what I choose to do. And so, and I think about even as you're talking, we're both talking about this evolution or this change, this growth. I'm trying to get out of using evolution as much because evolution, here's the difference. Evolution just happens. First of all, I don't like Charles Darwin because he was one of the biggest racists on the planet, but that's beside the point. Evolution just happens without any work, without any intention. And so I'm getting myself out of using that a whole lot. Thanks, Myron Golden. But there's a part of intentional growth. Now, how I'm going to grow, how I'm going to transform. And so even like Brian and Carrie. So our mindset coaches, Brian and Carrie. Brian was a mindset performance coach for the Canadian skating team. And then Carrie was a clinical counselor in the traditional sense. Both of them saw some similarities, but not like what they wanted. Carrie had the mindset to see that this doesn't fit for me because she wasn't able to bring herself into the conversation. It had to be more clinical, and this wall was there, and she wanted to bring herself in there where coaching was allowed her to do that. Less of the diagnosis, less of the putting stigmas, labels and things like that. So she saw the change and growth into what was in alignment with herself. So a lot of us, sometimes we can get stuck in a profession or get stuck in some kind of work that is not in alignment with who we are as an individual. So even having a mindset to say, I need to change, I need to shift from what I've done. I may have been doing this for the last 10, 15, 20 years, but this is not where I'm at now. And I can actually say, I'm willing to cut off this history of who I've been to bring on a new identity that I want to work towards to further success in the area I believe that God's calling me to do in a way that's more empowered.
Mm-hmm. You brought up faith.
Yeah.
And I was thinking of our conversation this morning, right? Faith is happiness. So I read that in his bathroom this morning on a nice little picture. And I was thinking about it quite a bit because I've always had this idea between faith and hope. Everybody wants hope. Everybody wants hope. Like you got to have hope. Hope and faith to me are like on a spectrum. And if you're only having hope, then you're lacking a whole lot of the faith aspect.
Right.
And that's always just been this really big idea for me. So the idea that we were discussing this morning around happiness and having the mindset of the faith towards happiness and the greater things that you want versus not having the goal, not having a North Star, not having a place that you want to achieve with the decision making that your mind gives you.
That's true. And actually in Proverbs, it talks about hope deferred makes a heart sick. It's meaning that what you're hoping for, what you're aspiring for in life, and if that's deferred, if it's cut down, it can make you sick. Literally, physically, mentally, emotionally, all these things, sickness can come from that. Like if I have hope in our relationship, continue to grow as brothers and, and being good friends, I have hope in that. And Joe tells me something that like, you're a jerk, I hate you, or isn't that? It changes my, what I believe about us doing life together for many, many years. So there's a part of that makes me sick, that's heartbroken from that, that change in relationship. Or what is it you believe God has called you to do? If there's a certain passion, there's a certain thing that you believe that you're going to go for. But if you always hold back on, well, this is how I've always been, the label, the identity, that's not for me. That's for those people to succeed at that thing, not me. That's for those people. I'm not like them. So all those kind of conversations going on inside of our mind that can make us sick in our thinking. And so we know that a lot of our clients and people that we work with, like yesterday, Joe stopped in and was helping one of my clients with a knee problem. So he brought in a neuro stuff, but also as we were talking about how he came to what drills he wanted to show, he went in his mind and he actually believed in that he was getting some divine downloads from the creator saying, no, do this, do that. So mindset worked in to bring in what the right neuro drill is and the right communication to give this lady hope about making change. Like I just as I'm saying it right now, how it all works together. All of this stuff, comes together, but it comes to the decision to say, I'm going to be available to help this lady. I'm going to be available. I asked him, would you mind giving her, I know she had some neat things, and I asked her, would you mind if my boy Joe, this is what he does, on a regular basis. And she got some, had hope in change. She had some hope in like, oh, it feels better. And, these things happen just like that. But also the willingness to use the gift. There are gifts that we naturally have that God has given us, and there's gifts that we have to mature and we have to grow into. And so Joe went through a whole program for how long has it been? It's a year-long program plus
it's a year-long program, and I'm in my second year, 3/4 of the way.
Yeah,
over 3/4.
Right. So he's becoming more masterful in that. So he's taking these tools of mindset, neuro, and blending these things all together, as well as the digestive and the gut stuff where he came from. And now his growth says, let's put these three together as the big trifecta. And at the same time, we're still talking about emotional resilience. So all these tools are in there. How do you grow in your specific area? It's the thought process of saying, this is what I'm going to dedicate this season of my life to becoming great at. I'm going to dedicate this season of my life to growing and get better and maturing this so that I can serve at a high level. And I think that's a part of why we, a lot of travelers, Joe and I would go to different places with our groups to learn and grow. And it's part of our mastermind or part of our coaching group. And we have these retreats. All that's part of nurturing the gifts, nurturing the callings that we have on us too. So I look at it now, we do this professionally. But can you look back before you really got into this, where you see that you were kind of doing some mindset stuff, like as a kid or in high school or whatever it is? I'm just wondering where you kind of look back and say, man, I was just kind of doing this already.
I mean, mindset world for me definitely started as a kid with Dad being like, imagine yourself making those free throws, right? Like basketball, Dad got me into the visualization side of mindset. But that is... It's interesting how you learn the stuff about NLP and imagine your outcome and go back to thinking about Dad just imagine yourself making those free throws, right? Like you one right after another, you stepping up to the line. It's the big game's on the line. Are you going to make the free throw, or are you going to be overthinking it and botch it and miss it, right? Like where's your faith and your confidence and how all of these things like are completely connected.
Right.
I think most kids naturally dream. Like, what are you going to do? Who are you going to become? And it's that dreaming that's an innate part of us that's built into our mindset to achieve different things. And then we go through life, and the programming tells you, do you want to be a fireman?
Right.
Do you want to be a police officer? Do you want to be a teacher? And maybe you do need to be a fireman. I don't know, right? Like everybody, we're all one big web of doing different things. So we support one another in community and have a beautiful world, really. But it's also interesting how you just let go of those dreams.
That's it.
You find yourself in college.
Be reasonable, Joe.
Go get a job.
Yeah, go get a job. Follow, and we talk about this. The dynamics, like I'm from New Orleans, in Wisconsin, that whole Midwest. There's a whole culture of the pride of being in the industry, of the blue collar, or being in the working environment so much it is hard to break out of that kind of set of I want to go into entrepreneurship. I want to be creative. I want to be different in that. You know, those crazy folks in California and the South, they're all doing this woo-woo crazy stuff like that. And but here's what I focus in on. You know, so sometimes your culture does that, and it's a great point. Is that like is somebody who is trained as a professional or just at a high level in basketball, and you miss a free throw air ball, that's all in your head and your emotions. You are so tense, and you're just whatever it is, if you miss an air ball, that is all mental. That is not skill set. You know how to at least hit the rim. That's all there. But like I said, I don't want to miss. I don't want to miss. I don't want to miss. The subconscious mind does not hear the don't. You're basically, when you say, I don't want to miss, you're saying, I want to miss. I don't want to mess up this presentation. You're saying, I want to mess up this presentation. It does not hear the language of the mind, does not even hear the don't or the not. You can't. It does not hear any of that. So it's so, interesting to really know that and understand that. And so you saw it in, with basketball and those things like that. And as Jesus said, we don't dream as big. If you go back to third grade, what did you want to be when you grew up? And it was like an astronaut. I want to be a professional athlete. I want to be an artist, and I want to be like the next Van Gogh. And then you get older. What do you want to be? I want to be an accountant. I want to work my way to middle management. It's like that one commercial was like, I want a brown nose. It's just like shrink those dreams and just conform. And I think there's a part where you got to be able to think outside of the box. You don't have to. We suggest you think outside of the box, because you may be in an area that's not producing the fruit that you want it to. You may be in a field that's like you're feeling unfulfilled. And that's one of the biggest things I hear from the guys that I work specifically with men, is the unfulfillment. I'm not purposeful in what I'm doing right now. And there's something else I know I'm called to do. And you've got to get clear, have the right mindset of getting clear on your gifts, your callings, your talents, your experiences. Sometimes it's not just the wins, it's the L's. A lot of times people, they find their purpose in the pain that they've endured. Joe had a really, really horrible fracture of his femur. Part of that healing process for himself was, I want to allow other people to heal, not just in their body, but in their mind and their heart and the trauma that comes from it. I think personally back, so for me, I was a 4'7", 82-pound freshman in high school. I was the smallest kid, and I was a little guy. So whether you're the little guy or the fat kid or whatever it is, I didn't fit in. And I didn't realize that I created this persona that was larger than life. I talked louder. I still talk loud. I cuss loud. I don't cuss anymore, but I cuss loud. But I'm going to also be Joe. We're working on Joe. But I know how to talk about you, your hair, your toenails, your teeth, whatever it is. I can talk about you and I can kill you. And I didn't understand that life and death is in the power of the tongue, what the Bible says. But I did understand that I know how to make myself bigger by my words. So I didn't realize that I was doing that to protect myself from being bullied. Mm-hmm. I really didn't get bullied at all, because I made this persona, and I could fight pretty decent. I'm going to find a way to equalize it and grab a brick or a stone, or I'm going to bite you, or whatever it is. I'm going to do something. But there was a part I didn't realize that. And also, I truly believe in Ryan Holiday's book, The Obstacle is the Way. The obstacle that's in the way is the way. And I needed to be the little guy to bring my work ethic, because what it did was it caused me, I want to outwork you in every single thing. I want to beat you on a basketball court, the football field. I want to beat you on a tennis court, in the classroom. We jumping ramps. Anybody know? I'm going to jump higher. Y'all scared to jump out the second story window? I'm going to do that. Whatever it was, that was more extreme. So I was always extra. And it's funny when I got to, so I've always created a persona also, and BG brought it up. It was one of the ones that brought it. Like when I said I created this persona because it was protection, and I'm like, oh Lord, where did that come from? So how much do we do certain things to protect ourselves? Some folks hide and shrink back. Some folks create a new identity to protect themselves if you're in an abusive relationship, abusive parents or whatever it may be. There be certain things that you cope with. If you ever watched the Tyler Perry story, he talked about that. This man's whole creative mind came from escaping abuse from his father. Like the stuff that he's been able to do is because he went to a place that got him away with his creativity. So I saw that those things, looking back at it, I was doing that. And, so I was actually doing it for myself. And it caused me to be a high performer out of it, because I felt like I had to do more to make up for the deficit that I had physically. And so it crossed over to every other thing. So I was just an overachiever from an early standpoint. But I think about that, and I think about when I was a Division I strength and conditioning coach at University of New Orleans. I trained my athletes, and I would tell them, I'm going to take you through Armageddon to prepare you for the little battles on the court. And so we would do stuff that was harder than the normal thing, and sort of preparation. And mentally, I was getting them in another place. And I didn't realize that I was doing so much mindset training on top of the physical stuff. And my athletes were like, they were some dogs, so those out there, they were dogs, but men and women, all of them. They're just like, I remember the volleyball girls, the year of Katrina, so volleyball gets started early in the fall. So they already had like 2 tournaments. And the first one, I had the whole team all summer long, except one girl. And we just went at it. I bust their tails. They got after it and this and that. And it came down to their first tournament. And they came back and said, Coach, we were playing and we saw that they were tired. They had their hands on their knees. And we had so much energy and we just crushed them. I was like, that's so beautiful. It's like a homework card for me. I was just so excited. We just crushed them. I'm like, I was like my little babies. They just became little warriors, and they just took a spear and stabbed in those poor little girl's heart. And I was just like, oh, this is beautiful. But so
who knew he was this soft?
I can say it's like I'm like watching Braveheart, and I'm like, I'm very sensitive to the movies, but I'll cry in Braveheart and 300, but I'll also cry in the Greatest Showman. So I'm just that weird spectrum. Compassion. You may feel I have a little energy to me. So, but I realized those things were happening along the way, and then now so sometimes you may look at, there's this thing that you had an interest in or something that you just kind of had a knack for, and there's a whole profession in that you don't even realize, and now we get the professional training and realize how it all comes together. So I think that's just kind of something you could look back, and it's these folks as you start getting older say, be reasonable and stop dreaming like that. Just go get you something safe, something that's safe and secure and all, but that's not the way.
Right. You brought up breaking my leg. So that in itself was a huge mindset, because 18 years old, you compound fracture your femur. You do your stuff to get better, PT, leg, whatever, walking was a big deal.
Yeah. And it's hard to walk with a broken femur. And so I forgot it. Tell them how you did it.
I was on a 4-wheeler, and I was going around a corner on a driveway, and I just looked up and the car was in front of me. So I swerved to the side, front part of the bumper, hit the front wheel, snapped the femur over the handlebars as I went flying. And so it was another 20 minutes before I even got to the hospital, got the drugs. The morphine was amazing at that point in my life. Button, you can press it every 7 minutes. It was great. Painful. But at the same time, I found myself like a 90-year-old, 70-year-old, 60-year-old, or 50-year-old, depending on their mindset. Like they might be 90, they might be 50, right? Right. But the pains of their body. I was 20 years old and just, my hips, my shoulders, this hurts, that hurts. And then I just had to get the little awareness that life could be a little bit better. And I'm like, wait a second. Like, what do you mean? Well, everything you're eating has a bunch of non-healthy stuff in it. Pay attention to that. And that's what kind of got me into the journey of looking at why eating what we eat is so important, right? Grandma having cancer when I was in high school and seeing what she went through just gave me that idea, like, how do you avoid preventing cancer? And then it just kind of hit me one day, like, cancer is abnormal cell growth. Right. So create healthy cells, and then you don't have to do that. And then about 5 years later, I was at a conference listening to a guy talking about be a cancer killer because he had survived cancer. And he talks about the 5 stages that cells go through. And I'm hitting my trainer because I'm at the thing with her, and I'm like, I told you it's abnormal cell growth. I told you it's abnormal. I never felt so validated. It was awesome. Right. But we can be whatever age we want to be here. Even talking with your grandparents right now, they are children to a degree. Yeah. If they still have a little bit of fun in them and life hasn't beat them up too much anyway. But that's the best part. Like, it's like that reversing the aging of going back to childhood and not being the adult. Yeah. We forget how to play, but yet legendary experiences and playing, and it's all part of that creation, right?
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I'll tell folks that a lot of times we say, well, I can't do this anymore because of my age. It's not because we're getting older, it's because we don't play anymore. We're not seeking adventure. We start becoming so reasonable in life. Well, at this age, I'm supposed to do this. At this age, I'm supposed to do that. I remember I was probably about 40, and I was we play flag football. It's sponsored by our church on Sundays, and I remember talking to some guys who were a little bit older than me at the time, and I said, "Hey, you know, guys still play flag football out there on Sundays." Now, backstory: the guy who actually facilitates it is 76 years old. He's been doing it for 48 years.
That's awesome.
Okay. And he knows he's in the move like that. I would love to go back in time and watch him 48 years ago. And I know Mike was getting it. And I'm saying I know he was getting it, but I know he knows his role and he knows what he can do. You know, I'm 48. I'm not 28. So I know there are some changes that happens in there, but I'm not your average 48-year-old because I train to be. And my mind says I'm young and vibrant, and I still, yes, the injuries can happen and all those things, but that's another story. There's some underlying stuff on top of that. But I told the guys that, hey, you play flag football, and the guy said, well, how old are you again? I won't say any names. He said, how old are you again? I said, 40. He said, yeah, that's about the same time I stopped playing flag football. And I said, is that the same time you started getting fat? Just keep it real. I mean, come on. You gonna come at me like that? Like, oh, that's what you did some wise. No, you're getting fat. And here's the thing that people don't want to hear. I know I'm an excuse killer. I'm gonna tell you like it is. You see obese people, you see elderly people. You don't see elderly obese people because they don't make it. Obesity will shorten your life. Facts, science facts. Now you look around, go this weekend and start looking around and see how many obese elderly people that you see that's over 70 that's obese. You ain't gonna see many. There's always, of course, everybody has, there's one outlier. There's always outliers, and people love to bring up that outlier. Smoking cigars is bad for you. Well, look at George Burns. He lived 100. George Burns was an outlier. Don't put that man in the middle. All right. So, healthy cells, like you're talking about, obesity, healthy cells, the mindset, gut health, getting your neurology to line up like it needs to. All these things are important factors. Now, do we just go say, all these things, what do I get? You may feel overwhelmed. How do I start on all these things? You don't start on all of them. What are the biggest things? So we're saying, it's kind of like and I don't know I'm not a fireman. I got good friends that are firemen, but if 5 houses are on fire, which one do you put out first? I don't know what the choice is. Is it the one that has the biggest fire? That's my thought process. Like if you got 5 things hurting in your body, the one that's bothering you the most is probably what needs the most attention. That's just my thought process. So you may need to say, I need to look at my mind. Well, we know mindset has to be no matter what, but you may say, okay, I need to get with Joe and work on my gut health. I need to get with Joe, work on my neurology. I need to work, so these things like this. But mindset is still going to be an overarching theme no matter what. But like you said, where is the fire the biggest in your life?
Mindset matters most because it starts, and it's the sales process. It's you deciding in your mind that there's some sort of deficit that you don't like, that you don't want. You want to change. You want a transformation. There's something better in life, and it's possible. So right there, that matters most because now you're making the decision to do something about it.
Right.
And if you get started with nutrition, or you get started with neurology, or you just get started trying to practice learning your language and catching yourself from saying stories that don't serve you, and creating stories, you don't even have to catch the ones that don't serve you. Just start creating stories that serve you. You could skip all the other stuff just by going forward, by being like, this is what I want. Right. So mindset matters most.
And we talk about just being intentions. Like we set intentions. Are you intentional about these changes? So even though you don't feel like it's present or feel like it's capable or this outcome is there, we have like this 4-pillar system that we talk about. And as one of them is imagining your outcome. Do you see with intention? What's the life I want to have? What is the outcome I want to have versus what could happen? Because Dr. Benjamin Hardy was actually in the same program with BG and Carrie, and he basically said the mindset program they have is the most fundamental, stable, the best on the planet because it does all these elements that even he's not an environmental psychologist, I forgot what he calls it. It's not behavioral. Anyway, he's a psychologist, and he wrote a lot of books. I love his stuff.
He basically wrote a book about every piece of their stuff.
Yes, absolutely. He basically he took our stuff. He said another word, but no, it's not that. But yes, it's the alignment there is so good, and so be your future self now. Having 10x goals is easier than 2x goals. All these things that he's talking about, the transformation that happens, it does come from the way you frame. I want this outcome. Same thing. Go back to the free throw. I want to, switch this out. Outcome. I want to switch this free throw. I see myself. You look at somebody who's one of the most masterful shooters of all time, Steph Curry. It just seems effortless. It looked like he's just throwing it up, sometimes. But it's like how many repetitions, how much belief, how much training, how much preparation, all those things are in there. But he decided I'm going to be the best shooter of all time. That had to be in there at some point in time. It doesn't happen by accident. Your success, your growth, your whatever it may be, your greatness is not going to happen by accident. That's why I don't like to say evolution. It's not going to happen just by circumstance, by happenstance. This is something that intentionally I need to lose the weight, to get stronger, rehab, recover, get clean from any kind of drugs or alcohol, any of those things, get cured from depression, whatever it may be. I need to be intentional. And that starts with moving from this hopelessness, as we talked about before, moving from this lack of faith or faith that's detrimental versus moving to a faith that's in the favor of the intention I want to make.
Yeah.
So good. Anything else you want to add there?
Oh man. I don't know how long we want to go.
We go another few minutes or so. I mean, anything that's relevant, hitting up. I mean, somebody saying, see, I know it says Facebook user. You probably see him in there.
Caleb.
Huh?
Caleb.
Oh, Caleb. What's up, Caleb? Caleb Allen. I know we're trying some different times there, brother. I know it's 9 o'clock. You used to hopping on at 7:30. Well, our time, your 8:30 your time. We're just playing on some different time to see what's up. Good to see you, brother. But yeah, we can go a little bit more here. Just trying to see if anything is popping up for you on. Well, yeah, we'll get that part in the end.
I mean, you brought up Dr. Benjamin Hardy, and you brought up imagine your outcome and the 4 pillars. So then I think the other 3 pillars.
Yeah, might as well put them in.
Mind the gap. So count your wins.
Yep.
Right. We've talked about learn your language and review your direction, like checking back and seeing where you're going.
Yeah.
I hit off.
Yeah, you hit them. Well, can you break them down a little bit? So, like I said, counting wins. That's something that's been in my group. All my clients, they know we count wins and this and that. But even every Friday inside my Lionheart group, my men's group, I ask for counting wins. And some people don't understand the power behind that. But why is it important to count our wins?
Counting our wins is putting our mindset towards the stuff that we want. It's changing where our attention is. Mm-hmm. So it's, are you a negative thinker or are you a positive thinker? Right. So what is that narrative? If you learn your language, how are you talking? If you learn your language, are you purposely using your language for the creation of what you want towards the wins so that you can see them coming? And then you're tuning in your reticular activating system and you're just looking for more wins. So if brushing your teeth is not a win, then that's not really a big deal.
Right.
Right. But like if you can count the simplest things, I showered today, I brushed my teeth today. And then now your mind starts looking for like, what's the next best thing that's going to come up in your life?
Yeah.
Right. And that's the whole mindset idea is what are your subconscious thoughts telling you, saying to you 24/7? Right. Like how do you get that in that positive space? Like how do you, it's creating that language, it's having that story that what you're looking for. And in making actions towards it, because now your mind is tuned into those things. It's tuned into the results you're looking for. You're just moving forward. So, and that's where, every now and then you got to stop and review your direction. You knew that this was your North Star. You planted your flag where you want to go. Are you doing the things that are going to get you there? Or is there a driver, a behavior that's creating motivation for you to do something that's actually taking you against, it's like making you paddle up stream,
right,
instead of going with the flow and getting to where you want to go. And so reviewing your direction's crucial. Review,
counting wins, review direction,
learn language,
and imagine outcome.
Outcome. We covered them all.
We got them all. So you said this big word, reticular activating system. What is that, Joe?
That's the little part in your brain, and I don't get into big words. Any of the neuro people will tell you. They start talking big words, I check out. But I pick up a few. The reticular activating system is you decide you're going to go get a new car, and you never see it. No one has that car. So you're going to buy the car that no one has. And then now you got the car, and everybody else is driving the exact same blue BMW that you decided you wanted. and it's everywhere.
Yeah.
And that's just because your mind tuned into it to start paying attention to it.
Absolutely.
So they were always all over the road. You just weren't paying attention. You didn't have the awareness for it.
Didn't have the awareness for it. It's so I've never heard of that way of saying, like, everyone went out and bought the same car that I got. You know, that's how you feel like that. I remember there's this when we were shopping for cars for my wife Courtney a while back, the one that she has now. We're looking at this Infiniti. I'd never seen it before, ever. Never. It was like this mid-size SUV, and I'd never seen it before. And then we went and test drove it. And after that, I just see them all over the place. No, so it's you see it in the car example, but here's the thing is what you get more of what you look for in life. And so real example I've seen before, like if I get you to look around your room and look for all the red things. You can see all the red. Obviously, if you're watching this, you see my shirt, you see all the things here. But if you look around your room, you see all the red things. And if I tell you to close your eyes after looking at all the red things, close your eyes and say, what did you see that was blue? You didn't notice any of the blue things because you were not looking for it. So if you look at in your life, am I looking for what I need to be looking for? Am I looking for the ways and opportunities? I always say, like, we pray, Courtney and I, we pray for divine connections and divine appointments. I'm intentional. We're looking for opportunities for me to have a conversation with someone that either helps me or I help them. If it's a way to glorify God in some form or fashion, I'm looking for those. So I'm looking for those opportunities, and because I'm looking for it, it pop up. It pop up almost every time that I'm out and about in those things. So for your journey itself, am I looking, man, I really want to lose weight. I got this gut things going on. Man, I wish, and once again, intentional, it's just like, it's a prayer. Lord, bring me the right sources, bring me the right person, the right individuals to help me in this journey. And next thing you know, it's kind of like the life algorithm. Like when you in social media, if you start searching for something, you get it in your feed. Now that I'm actually intentional about trying to find these things, the life algorithm hits up, and next thing you run into Joe in a supermarket, or you run across somebody who's doing this thing, or you bring it out to the world and say, man, I wish I could find, like, I can go right now on Facebook and put a post, hey, I'm looking for a plumber. I'm intentional. I'm putting it out there, and guess what? I'm going to get a gazillion people saying where the plumber is and who's the best plumber, and all these things going to happen like that. So the same way that it works in the universe, it works in the world, that we're interconnected in a way that I'm looking for success in this area. I'm looking for growth and change in this area. Now that I'm looking and searching for it with intentionality, things are going to start moving in my direction versus saying that this is how it's always been. This is my story. This is how it's going to go. I'm telling a bad story versus the one that it's going to help me.
So I heard this great analogy this weekend, and it's our mindsets and how do we catch ourselves. So maybe we're thinking about the things that we don't want, and we're really unhappy about the way that our life is. So are we looking for the changes in our life, or are we looking for the proof that life is as crappy as we feel right now?
Right.
So the way that this analogy goes is that you're kind of stepping in dog poo, and you take off your shoe and you look at it and you're like, oh yeah, it's dog poo. Yep, dog poo. Yep, definitely dog poo. And then you take it and you throw it out in front of you in your future, and then you just keep walking and you step in dog poo. And then you're like, oh, I stepped in dog poo, and you look at it and yeah, that's the same dog poo. Yeah, it tastes the same. Yeah, let's throw that out there. And then you just keep stepping in the same poo. Getting good at this.
You're good. Joe is working hard to tame his tongue, because Joe likes all like words that don't 4-letter words and stuff like that. So Joe's doing awesome, dude. You're killing it. He's using poo, and I hear him like struggling to say poo. But anyway, go ahead, dog. I'm proud of you.
But that's the mindset side of that is we have to look for the things that we want. We have to tune our reticular activating system in to the wins. I just counted my win.
Yeah,
like I was saying poo. Right? Like we just went through that like live, like, yeah, I'm this person, but yeah, look at me, I can be this person. Yes. Right? Like it's putting our mind towards what we want.
Yeah.
So you find yourself doing that more often than not, and you're going to find yourself finding what you're looking for in life more often than not.
Yeah. You're creating a new identity of the person who does it this way. Like, say, for me, I used to cuss once again, I used to cuss a whole lot as an identity because I made myself bigger. I made myself tougher, whatever it was I did. And it was just, I put words together that didn't even make sense. Like, it was like horrible at cussing. But To say that I don't do that and haven't really in 20 something years, that hasn't been part of my language. I would have never thought that at that, when I was younger, because this is what I did. But here's something that you pay attention to. There are certain people in your life that have never heard you cuss. Never. I hope maybe somebody, I don't know, Joe, but my grandparents, my parents, my dad heard me one time because we had one situation, and he actually gave me grace. He didn't punch a full hole in my face. But mom's never, grandparents haven't. If you have a pastor or a priest or somebody that you go to, they probably haven't heard you cuss before. So we know how to turn it off. But once again, if we hold on, this is how I've been. And I can have held on to that. This is how I've always been. And I no longer drink. I started drinking at age 12. I drank enough from 12 to 24 to last a lifetime. I have not drank since I was 24 years old. I would have never imagined. In college, I drank every single day. I would have never imagined this not being me, not part of my personality. So even coming to Christ, I'm being transformed as a new person, but that's still my personality, my wit, my humor. Those are the things that I wanted to keep the same. I didn't have to become this boring person, whatever it is. But there are certain things that were detrimental to my growth and my family and the things that I do, especially as a minister. Yeah, you don't really want to cuss and preach it too much. You just kind of don't laugh. It's not a good look. So God delivered me from those particular things, but I had to surrender them. So sometimes it's surrendering a profession, surrendering some bad habits. And like you said, we talked about this month at my studio. Our theme is momentum. And we talk about how do we build momentum is part of consistency. Yesterday was a quote from Darren Hardy, who wrote The Compound Effect. It's doing the things over and over again that builds the habits to become the person. The habits start to become the new identity. And so I can't not be a man of faith. This is part of my identity. I can't not be a person who trains strength and fitness. That's part of who I am. And so those things were not there at one point in time. I didn't start working out till I was 18. So that was an identity that wasn't there, but it became part of who I am and what I stand for and what I believe in. I stand for those particular things. And so the same way we decide, what do I want to grow into? And those habits come in, and we start like casting a vote towards the identity and the person we want to be. That's the stories we're telling because of the person we're going to be. And now I lead from that example and bring people along the way who want to raise their hand and say, I want that.
And this is just a great example. Like, do you know this about yourself? Like, do you know yourself well enough where you're like, this is the pieces of my identity that feel good, that are who I want to be. It's the intention that I want.
Right.
So this is beautiful. Love
good,
that.
Good. So Caleb, you're just saying, he's just able to get in there. Caleb is in there. Good seeing you, brother. But so hopefully this has been helpful for you guys. If it's a way that you can be transformed by the renewing of your mind. It's the first and the highest level of things we talk about, going upstream to the way you think. Many times, say you want to quit smoking. If you're a smoker and you want to quit smoking, many times we want to change that habit at the habit level, and it doesn't happen there. We have to go upstream. We have to go upstream and say, how do I think about this thing? How do I feel about this thing? So I got to decide to either stay here in the smoking habit or create the mindset that I can overcome this. What are the things who do I need to become as a person who is no longer a smoker? Okay. Who do I become to be that person? Also, what feelings do I want to have when I've accomplished not being a smoker? It's kind of like, it becomes non-negotiable, it becomes not even an option. For a vegan, they don't go one day and say, you know what? If I offer them a steak, you know what? I think I'll take it today. No, they're committed to their life of being a vegan at some point in time. This is part of it. And if that changes down the line, that's one thing, but they're committed. It's not like they wake up, I wonder if I'm going to have chicken today. Well, maybe I'll do some fit. No, that's not part of it. They're committed to that lifestyle. So the same way you're committing to become the person who achieves those goals. And that's creating the identity, the mindset, the emotional resilience, working from the health side of things, all those things to allow you to move in that direction too. So, Brother Joe, appreciate you here. Go ahead.
One last thing.
Oh, please do.
You brought up earlier the stuff that we don't want, and paying attention to the stuff that we don't want.
Yeah.
And so now we're talking about the identity and figuring this stuff out. So how do you start paying attention to the stuff that you do want? Right? Like the smoking was a great example. So find that thing. It's the longing on your heart. right? Like, what's that messaging that you keep hearing, that keeps coming from inside, that you're ignoring? That all this programming and stuff that is taking place can't shut that voice up.
Yeah.
Like, that's the voice that you got to start paying attention to. That's the identity that you want to attach yourself to. Those are the habits of that voice. Like, what are the habits that voice does? That's where the gold is for you. Like, when you can start creating and putting your future self out there of being like, that's who I want to be. Those are the habits that person does to get there. And that's that voice that's on your heart. Just follow that direction.
That's good. It makes me think like on my energy people, that the frequency, they're on the right frequency to hear or tune into that voice. I can be in this, two things I recognize. If I could be in a room and close my eyes and there's a bunch of men in a room, I would hear and understand my dad clearing his voice. I know that so much signature of my dad of any other. If we get all the men, I close my eyes and hear, 20 men clear their voice, I know my dad's. Or his keys. I've heard those keys for 40 something years. I've heard his keys in the same manner. So if he picks up his keys or they drop, I know his keys over everyone else. So same way, in the Bible, it talks about my sheep hear me and they know my voice. There's something about that, knowing the voice of God, knowing his spirit, how he speaks to us through scripture. But the same way, are you tuning in to the frequency of the voice that you want to hear, of the story that you want to hear? That's part of it, being in an alignment that you choose. You know what I'm saying? So that I love that. And it made me hear that, because I would hear that. I would understand that. You probably, as those parents, if your kids, sometimes you hear in a crowd, you hear somebody says, "Dad," and it's funny, everybody turns, because if you're a dad, because you hear your kids do it, but there's a way you can hear their voice a little different in most situations too. So yeah, lining with that story, lining with that voice makes a difference. So cool, Joe. If people want to get,
it's been great.
It's been real good, dude. So if people want to get in touch with you and what kind of stuff you got going on, or what's the best places they can like follow your work and follow things you do?
Social media. I feel like I'm on about every platform, so you can find me on anyone. Facebook's my go-to. Neuroassurance.com. I've got a neuro spine and posture program.
We'll put that in the show notes.
So if people want to check that out. Eventually, I got a Substack. I need to start writing a little bit more, but saying that, so I do it.
Yeah, there you go. Accountability. Once again, he's being accountable to everybody. So we didn't see that Joe does that. Tell us real quickly, what is that the neuro program you're talking about?
The neuro spine and posture program is working your higher order systems. So a lot of times people come to the gym and they work out their full bodies, but they're not necessarily working what deficit their balance system needs, like their ears and vision. So we're not for me, being on the four-wheeler and I swerved this way and I got hit this way, I had no idea I had visual deficits until I got into the neuro and I started doing neuro training. And I was like, wait a second, like my eyes don't work like that.
Right.
And then it was like, ooh, that's really threatening. My body hates that. If something's coming like this, I was like, whoa, like I didn't even realize that would knock me out. Like, and by knock me out, I mean feel really, really awful. But then as I started training that, then it doesn't happen anymore, and it's like magic. It's kind of cool.
Awesome.
So the neuro spine and posture is geared towards the higher order systems and geared towards keeping longevity for your spine, because it's usually once our balance systems go and our vision goes that we start looking down, and then our posture and everything changes.
Cool.
So I did it with the program's done with the chiropractor, and that's why, and that's what it's for.
Awesome. Well, connect with Joe definitely on all the social medias out there, and appreciate you guys. Once again, if you guys have comments, questions that you see it later on, drop those in there, and I'd love to come back and do our best to answer them. So love you guys. Appreciate you being here. God bless. Go hard. Peace.